Howdy, CXCD here, and in the world of My Little Pony, magic is very prevalent. I've said this for a while now, but magic can solve almost any issue. Whether it's a complicated issue or something as basic as being served chocolate ice cream instead of, I don't know, vanilla. In the world of My Little Pony, usually, more often than not, magic can solve it. So speaking about magic and one of magic's most prevalent, proficient users, let's talk about Trixie. I've talked about Trixie a few times on this channel before, I won't lie, but recently there's been some new information brought to light that I think that I should really cover, because it's very interesting. Interestingly enough, Trixie was kind of loved by the fandom for a while, and then hated, and then loved again. It was like a valley and trough. She was introduced way back in season 1. And honestly, I think that earns her a veterans discount. And let's just be real for a second, the way they introduced Trixie is genuinely terrible. She was just a stage mare trying to put on a performance. And then, by definition, a bunch of hecklers came along and literally began heckling her. Like, if you rewatch the episode with the idea that the main six are heckling Trixie, that is literally what they're doing here. But for whatever reason, the show treats it almost as if Trixie was in the wrong for just doing a show. Would you go to a comedy show and just start screaming at the comedic that you can do comedy better than them? And Trixie deals with the main six in spectacular ways. But the main six still hold a grudge against her, which is just, they're in the wrong! They're objectively in the wrong! And once again, Trixie was not the one to bring an Ursa Minor to Ponyville. It was Snips and Snails. They're the issue here, not Trixie. It wasn't Trixie's fault that some dumb kids, that was entirely on Snips and Snails, not Trixie. Then when Trixie shows up again in season 3, it's explained that since Trixie was defeated in the season 1 episode, people have been graffitiing her wagon and laughing her off stage. Because of what the main six did here in season 1, Trixie's job was basically put on the line. She had to get a second job at a rock farm to live. Isn't that messed up? Trixie's a stage mare, not a teacher. She doesn't need to get a second job. She shows up with a magical amulet, and long story short, her world gets freaking wrecked by Twilight. She kind of half-heartedly apologizes, kind of, and then once again vanishes into the ether. This, I think, is when fans loved Trixie. She was, in a world of unapologetically friendly ponies, the one pony that a lot of people could honestly relate to. She was brash, loud, liked to talk to the third person, was unique, and above all else was great and powerful. She was one of the fandom's biggest mascots, but eventually she fell. In season 6, she was introduced to be Starlight's friend. I think this is when people started to, hate her. I don't think there was anything wrong with her character per se. I just think that genuinely, at the time, most people hated Starlight for just becoming like a second Twilight, a 7th main 6 character, and Trixie was sticking side by side with her and just got caught in some of the crossfire. She was catching strays. Once again, I don't think there's anything wrong with her, I just think it was bad circumstance. But eventually, as the series rounded to a close, I think a lot of people did end up genuinely liking her. So I just gave you an entire character for this person. Who is this? Why'd I go through all this effort just to tell you about this one character? Let me tell you, because in the fandom, there is a very strong headcanon shared by almost everybody. At this point, it's less of a headcanon and more of just an unofficially canon theory. Everyone seems to think that Trixie, the Great and Powerful, is trans. I've been saying this for such a long time. Whenever somebody brings up in a conversation, it's just a fact. Trixie is trans, as the sky is blue and the sun is yellow. But how did we get to this point? How did we decide that Trixie is trans? Did people just, latch onto the nearest character that happened to be Trixie at the time and just call her trans? No. There's actually some evidence that points to the idea that Trixie's actually canonically trans. And by some evidence, I mean a lot. There's a lot of evidence. So, in season 1, the first time that Trixie shows up in My Little Pony, Trixie visually has an error. The way she is drawn and animated within the series, she has an error. She is missing something that every other pony in the series has. Trixie is missing a second eye shine. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look at Twilight. She has 2 eye shines, you see? Those 2 white circles are meant to represent, reflections. Trixie, on the other hand, only has 1. And that's not the only thing that's wrong with her eyes. Her iris is also a gradient. If we once again look at Twilight, we'll notice that her eyes down at the bottom are kind of split by these 2, boxes. I'm not exactly sure what the boxes are meant to represent, but still. So what do these 2 differences in eyes have to do with Trixie, right? And I just want to make it explicitly clear that this does not apply to every character. This applies to most characters within season 1. This is a season 1 thing. If you go and compare Trixie to somebody in season 8 or season 7, this does not apply. So, in season 1, all stallions have at least a very similar eye design. Take, for instance, Big Mac. He has a gradient and only has one eye shine. Caramel has a gradient and has one eye shine. Spike, one eye shine. Snips and Stales, one eye shine. And for whatever reason, their irises are as prudent as the black void. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Andrew, stallions do have two eye shines sometimes, like Doctor Who's in Sonic Rainboom. My point is that while some stallions do have two eye shines, no mares have both of these features. No mares, except for Trixie. Trixie shares a design trait that only stallions have. I don't think this philosophy applies to characters like Nightmare Moon, because Nightmare Moon has one eye shine, sure, but her eye is just like not a pony's, so I don't think it really applies. Her eye is just fundamentally different. Granny Smith also has one eye shine, but she's so freaking old and fragile. I think her DNA just like osmosis is wrong. One point that's really interesting, though, that shares the one eye design is Lightning Dust. She's not a season 1 character, although she is one of my favorite characters. Like, unironically, probably my favorite character in the series. But I just think it's really interesting how she has a gradient instead of those boxes, which is weird to me. I don't know why. Where the hell was I? Oh, yeah, hold on. Many people probably assume that Trixie only having one eye shine is just a oversight, right? After all, unlike a lot of other season 1 characters, Trixie only shows up once, and that's it. Who cares if she accidentally has one eye shine? Nobody will ever notice the one eye shine, right? That is a fair assumption to make, I think. My Little Pony is infamous for having really bad animation errors that they will somehow inexplicably make it into the final episode, and I just don't know how. I like to bring this one up a lot, but like Rainbow's head being dismembered here for one frame, why? And there's this character that was just left over from an animatic phase. I don't know how do they make it into the final episode? I just genuinely don't know how. So if these blatant, borderline insane animation errors can make it into the final episode, then why can't a single eye shine too, right? A simple eye shine is gonna slip under a lot of people's radars. Well, that's what you might think, until somebody none other than the creator of the series, Lauren Faust, took to Twitter and told the heavens that a season 1 character of MLP is trans. Lauren Faust posted this tweet in a very long list of joke tweets that weren't meant to be taken seriously, but she did later come back and say that this particular tweet was actually true, or at least had some semblance of truth to it. So, yes, it is officially, genuinely confirmed by the creator of the show that a season 1 character is trans.
It wouldn't happen to be Granny Smith, would it?
Really, with the evidence provided, I don't think that there is another character other than Trixie it could be. The creator of the show is telling you point blank that Trixie's trans. It doesn't get any deeper than this. Except it does get deeper than that. Do you need more proof? Because I'm gonna give it to you. It's well known that Lauren Faust originally envisioned Trixie as a male character, a boy. This was revealed on DeviantArt from Lauren Faust herself. Unfortunately, we don't have any art of this character. This is the oldest piece of art we have, and although Trixie could be androgynous here, more than likely, she's just a mare. But oh wait! Recently, a fellow pony YouTuber known as Toby MLP made a very interesting video going in depth about a lot of either early versions of scripts we have in the show or deleted scripts that never made it to an episode. And in the season 1 section, I don't know how he did this, but Toby managed to find a very early draft of the very first episode Trixie appears in. This draft is so early that they're calling Princess Celestia Queen Celestia. That's how old this is. And what do you know? Trixie doesn't even have a name. Instead, throughout the entire script, they only refer to Trixie as, and I quote, a boy unicorn from a neighboring village. If that's not proof that Trixie is trans, I genuinely don't know what is. So there you have it. Trixie's trans. This is the most blatant evidence I could possibly find, and it's a big recap for people who are just tuning in, right? But there's also something very interesting that happens with the fandom. Right? I don't know why this is, but a lot of the fandom is very homophobic. You'd be genuinely surprised. I don't understand why people would even come into this fandom in the first place with the assumption that this fandom is not LGBT. Like, they're looking at this horse show, this pastel unicorn Pegasus horse show, and thinking, there is nothing gay about this. Like, if I see anybody make any gay headcanons, I'm gonna riot. Like, why are they here? Who are you? I also think that a lot of that general MLP homophobia is from the early days of the fandom, of 4chan days, right? So I'm proposing a new movement, and it's gonna be called Intolerance. What does that mean? It means that people that are expressly homophobic, Nazis, problematic people, anyone who's intolerant should not be tolerated. I think this fandom needs to do a much better job of gatekeeping itself. Gatekeeping is not the right word. Of moderating itself. This might be a subject for another video for another day, but I'm still gonna say some of it here. The kind of, oh, what can you do attitude that a lot of people in this fandom have is very disheartening. A lot of people think that just because this fandom was founded on that kind of icky gicky stuff means that it is inseparable, and homophobia, transphobia, Nazism is just all part of it now, right? I'm here to tell you that it's not. You can make a difference right now. All I'm saying is you should start intolerating intolerance. And I think that's now my new slogan. So make sure you subscribe. I'll see you later. And remember, kids, always intolerate intolerance.
I bite at the hand that feeds me, slap at the face that eats me. Some kind of animal cannibal made impressions on me.